This is illegal! Take this flag down!
Cole Whitaker had always believed that a man's home was the one place where his values were allowed to breathe. In a world where every headline screamed division, where every debate seemed to demand that neighbors choose a side, he still held on to a simple principle. Freedom meant something. Freedom mattered. And when he raised his flag every sunrise, his Trump 2024 banner swaying against the harsh Nevada desert wind, it wasn't an argument. It wasn't a fight. It was just him honoring what he believed without apology. But that was before the HOA decided his beliefs were their jurisdiction. The first confrontation happened on a Monday. Cole had just walked out to grab his coffee mug he left on the truck bed the night before when he saw Mrs. Ennison, the HOA treasurer, standing at the base of his flagpole, phone in hand, recording. She wasn't subtle. She zoomed in slowly, dramatically, as if she were documenting a war crime. Cole watched from the porch as she pursed her lips so tight they practically disappeared. Then she did it. She reached up, grabbed the halyard, and lowered his flag like she was conducting a hostile takeover. Cole's mug froze halfway to his lips. "Ma'am," he called out, "you mind putting that back?" She didn't look ashamed, not even startled. She turned, chin lifted, eyes blazing, and delivered her decree like she was announcing a sentence. Political paraphernalia is prohibited outside election months. This is a violation. Cole walked closer, boots crunching on gravel. "That pole is on my property." "That flag," she said, folding it like a sheriff bagging evidence, "is against HOA standards. Remove it again, and your fine will begin immediately." It didn't matter that other houses flew football team flags year-round, or that one neighbor had a 10-foot inflatable Elvis set up every July for tradition. Cole's wasn't about clutter or uniformity. His was about politics, and that made it fair game. But before I go further, before this entire situation catches fire the way it did in that neighborhood, let me stop here and speak directly to you. Welcome to Honorbound Tales, where we break down real confrontations between everyday people and the power structures that mistake compliance for weakness. If you're new here, hit like, subscribe, and tell us your location in the comments so we can see just how far the reach of these stories travel across this divided country. Now, let's get back to Cole, because his story, it didn't just escalate, it detonated. The treasurer removed his flag 3 times that week, not once with notice, not once with protocol. She walked straight onto his property like she owned it, yanked the flag down, stuffed it under her arm, and marched away like she was liberating the world from sin. Each time, she emailed him a fine, $500 a day. Not a typo, $500 for expressing a political viewpoint on a flagpole that legally belonged to him. Cole didn't bite back at first. He wasn't the kind of man who swung the moment someone poked him. He watched, observed, collected evidence. Because unlike the HOA board blowing steam in their curated suburban kingdom, Cole had built something real, something the entire community depended on without knowing it. See, years ago, before the neighborhood even existed, Cole founded Whitaker Installations, a company that built industrial flagpoles for schools, stadiums, and municipal entryways. His company wasn't a side hustle. It was the go-to contractor for the region. And when this very community was constructed, the developers had chosen Whitaker Installations to erect every entrance flagpole along the main boulevard. 10 enormous poles, each one engineered to withstand desert hurricanes, each one custom-built, each one installed under a contract nobody in the new HOA leadership had ever read. And because nobody ever reads long contracts, because everyone assumes the legal stuff is just empty filler, they also didn't know that the installation contract included a maintenance clause. A 25-year maintenance clause. A 25-year auto-renewing maintenance clause. A 25-year auto-renewing maintenance clause that stated word for word, the owner of Whitaker Installations retains sole discretion over the display content approved for maintenance poles, unless negotiated otherwise in writing. In other words, Cole owned the rights to what flew on those entrance poles. And the HOA? They couldn't do a damn thing about it. But Cole didn't fire back immediately. No, he waited. He replayed the footage of the treasurer trespassing on his yard, removing his flag like she was the savior of an oppressed nation. He watched her smug emails pile up. He read the board's internal newsletter, sent him by a sympathetic neighbor, where they called him the extremist on Redwood Bluff, and said things like, "People like him destroy the neighborhood aesthetic." People like him. That hit differently. He'd served his country. He'd hired people from every walk of life. His company, his pride, was built on discipline and respect. And here were 3 HOA board members acting like they were the guardians of morality, punishing him because his beliefs didn't align with theirs. Cole wasn't a man who picked fights, but he finished them. On Thursday night, he walked into his office, lights low, only the hum of the AC filling the room. He unlocked the digital vault where old contracts lived. He didn't look angry when he opened the file. He looked resolved. The next morning at sunrise, the neighborhood awoke not to calm desert wind, but to a scene straight out of a political earthquake. Every single one of the 10 enormous entrance flagpoles, visible from half a mile away, flew a brand new, enormous, high-grade Trump flag. The kind used at rallies, the kind with wind tunnel stitching, bright colors, and reinforced borders. Flags so large they snapped like thunder in the wind, the sound echoing down the boulevard like cannons. Drivers slowed down. Some stopped completely. Neighbors came outside in pajamas. Cars pulled off the road just to stare. And the HOA board? They came running. The treasurer was first, robe flying, hair barely brushed, shouting, "This is illegal! This is political warfare!" Cole leaned against his fence, sipping coffee, watching them scramble at the entrance through binoculars. He didn't have to be close to hear the tone of panic in their voices. He knew they would check the polls. He knew their faces would crumble when they saw the contractor plate welded to each base. Whitaker Installations, maintenance exclusive. They called an emergency meeting within an hour. Not a friendly one, a frantic one. Cole attended. He walked in with the calm of a man holding every card in the deck. The board sat at the long conference table, their faces tight, frustrated, and increasingly fearful. The treasurer glared at him like he had personally declared civil war. "Mr. Whitaker," she spat, "you have caused a political incident at the entrance of our neighborhood." Cole sat down slowly. "I followed the contract." "There is no contract that permits this display," she shouted. "Actually," Cole said, pulling a folder from his coat, "there is." He slid the original signed contract across the table. They read it. Their faces drained. The words were clear. The meaning was undeniable. And the auto-renewal clause? Ironclad. One board member, Gretchen, sank back into her chair like her spine had melted. "This is impossible," she whispered. "Who agreed to this?" "The developers," Cole said, 20 years ago. "And since you never renegotiated the maintenance clause, it renewed 3 years ago. That makes me," he tapped the contract with one finger, "untouchable." Silence strangled the room. The treasurer looked like she wanted to flip the table. "This is manipulation." "No," Cole said. "You've been trespassing on my property. You've been finding me illegally. You've targeted me for political expression. What I did was simply remember that contracts matter. Freedom mattered. And I'm done being bullied." "You put up giant Trump flags," she snapped. Cole leaned forward. "You tore down my small one 3 times. You escalated, not me." The board tried to recover. They tried to find loopholes, but the legal language pinned them like insects under glass. One by one, they realized they had no recourse. The next twist came not from Cole, but from the county legal office, because when the treasurer filed a complaint accusing Cole of political harassment, the county attorney read the contract and dismissed her claim within an hour. In the dismissal letter, he even added a note about the importance of honoring free expression on private and contract-controlled property. Translation: she picked the wrong fight with the wrong man. The neighborhood changed by that evening. Cars slowed at the entrance to take pictures. Some residents were furious. Others laughed. Others felt relieved that someone had finally pushed back against the suffocating HOA rule culture. But the treasurer, she spiraled. She attempted to fine Cole again, illegally, and this time Cole fought back with his attorney. Within days, the HOA was required to reimburse him for the fines they had levied and paid damages for violating his property rights. At the next board meeting, half the community showed up demanding her removal. She resigned in humiliation, her authority evaporating faster than the ink on the violation letters she used to hand out. And the biggest twist? Those entrance flags? They stayed. Because the contract remained active. Because the clause remained binding. Because the board couldn't override 25-year infrastructure agreements they had never bothered to read. The next morning, Cole walked outside with his coffee, looked down the long boulevard, and watched the massive flags waving boldly in the desert wind. Whether you liked Trump or hated him, the symbolism was clear. You cannot bully a man who built the very things you stand under. He didn't cheer, he didn't gloat, he didn't rub it in. He simply raised his own small Trump flag again, tied the halyard neatly, and let it rise. This time, nobody touched it. Nobody dared. So if you're still watching, make sure you like, subscribe, and comment your location so we can see how far Honorbound Tales reaches across this country. And before you scroll away, let me leave you with this final question. What's the most unexpected moment in your life when someone tried to silence you and found out you were far harder to erase than they thought?